Welcome to the Monkey Seat. This is episode 52 and we're going for a slightly different feel today. We have no Karl with us at the moment, just life is just getting in the way. And we'd like to bring in the podcast nice and early. Who wants to listen to a race review on a Friday? So we're just going to do a bit of a short podcast today. It's just going to be me going to talk about the Formula 1. We're going to talk about the Formula 2, a bit of an Indy 500 update. And then we're probably going to do a bit of a hot take session at the weekend, or maybe even into next week, and we're going to kind of look back at everything that's happened. And Karl's going to give his wrong opinions, and I'm going to argue with him. There'll be lots of swearing, and then probably on YouTube as well. We'll be like, no, don't swear on YouTube. So that's kind of the plan for this week. So apologies, it's going to be probably a little bit shorter today as well. But that's just kind of like the way we are at the moment in life. It's life tends to get in the way of things like this. So we're just going to kind of make the best of it. But it's great because it means that we're busy and life is gradually returning to normal. So we just need to kind of find a way to make this podcast fit in around our old lives, which hopefully we'll be back to fairly soon. So we're going to start with some breaking news, but I'm not going to play the breaking news bumper because it's not really suitable, because unfortunately it's bad news. It's Max Mosely, age 81, has unfortunately passed away. Now, you can say what you want about Max Mosely, and he's a very divisive figure in Formula 1, but and I can guarantee you that Formula 1 would be a much worse place if it weren't for Max Mosely. It's a real shame to see him go, and Bernie Ecclestone has said it's like losing a family member. He did a huge amount for safety in Formula 1. He was not afraid of tackling the tough issues head on. The sport was basically being run by, the lunatics were running an asylum in Formula 1 before Bernie Ecclestone and Max Mosely took control of the sport. Now, I think they probably outstayed their welcome a little bit, to be honest, but not so much Max Mosely. He was in charge from 1993 to 2009, and for the most part did a good job. And I know I say he's a very divisive figure. There was lots of political reasons why people didn't like him, and all the rumours about the Nazi-themed orgy and all that kind of stuff, which was never corroborated, though hilarious to read about, was never corroborated, and I think it was a bit of a witch hunt anyway, to be honest. But it's a real shame. His legacy will live long on in Formula 1, long after his passing. So we thank him for his hard work and his service to the sport, because the sport is a much better place now, partially thanks to him. So we're going to go into our Formula 1. It was obviously, Monaco is known to not be one of the greatest experiences when it comes to watching an exciting race. So those people new to Formula 1, to be fair, you're probably not listening to a podcast about motorsport if you're new to Formula 1. But if you're an Indycar fan that listens to this podcast for Indycar, and you've just started watching Formula 1, you think, well, that was a bit naff. I'll stick with me Indycar. Okay, yeah, so on-track action, Indycar is much more exciting than Formula 1. I will happily admit that. And Monaco is not ever a good race, to be honest, when it comes to, well, if you're looking at purely overtakes and on-track action and battles, you're never going to get that at Monaco unless you have rain. It just doesn't happen. The cars are too big, they're too cumbersome, they've got too big a wheelbase. I would say they've outgrown the track, but they were always too big for the track. It's like when you've got a kitten trying to climb into an egg cup. It's always too big for it. It's hilarious to watch sometimes and can be comical, but it's not going to conducive to a good motorsport race. So if you're new to motorsport, or new to Formula 1 specifically, then don't worry, they get a lot better than Monaco. Monaco is normally the worst race on the calendar. Qualifying, on the other hand, is absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoy qualifying always. It's just seeing the people right on the edge. Charles Leclerc shocked everyone by putting in what looked like it could potentially have been pole position, and then slammed it into the barrier. Not on purpose, despite what some people are saying. That was 100% not on purpose. He was probably throwing caution to the wind because he knew that he was down in his first two sectors. So going for pole position, pole in Monaco, as we saw yesterday, is basically the win. You need to get on pole position. If you can get away from that line, get into Sandoval in first place, barring pit stop issues or a bad strategy, you're going to win the race. You just cannot overtake unless you're just leaving the door wide open, or you are, you have the person you are attacking is very, very happy for you to come past them, to be honest. It's just not going to happen. So it's with him, not obviously the crash, there was damage which Ferrari didn't pick up, and then when he attempted to start the race, he drove to the grid and then broke down, so he was unable to take the start. So we're going to go for the 2-minute challenge, despite Karl's not being here, which means I can actually concentrate on what I'm doing rather than him trying to put me off. So that's going to be interesting. So let's see if that makes any difference whatsoever.
It's the 2-minute challenge.
Leclerc failed to start the race due to a drive shaft issue, moving everyone up one place. At the start, Verstappen, who had to start on the slippy side of the grid, held the lead, with Vettel the only mover in the top 10, passing Perez for 7th. Alonso was the highest mover outside of the top 10, passing 2 cars at the start and gaining 1 place due to Leclerc not starting, to make 14th place his bitch. Mick Schumacher made a great pass at the Lowe's hairpin, whatever hairpin it's called now, on his teammate for a lofty 18th place, and his knobhead teammate then got a black and white flag for driving standards relating to track limits. That makes that last place really hard fought. Monaco was Monaco, so the major action didn't come at all until lap 30, when Lewis Hamilton was the first out of the entire field to stop for hard tyres, and he was not only not able to jump Gasly, but he was slower than everyone else around him at the time as well, and a completely baffling strategy call. Bottas stopped the following lap, and the gunman stripped the thread on his wheel nut, and they were unable to take off the wheel, and he retired from the race. Vettel jumped both Hamilton and Gasly in the stops, but we didn't see it because the side-by-side action was cut away from, because the director decided he wanted to watch Lance Stroll bouncing over some curves instead. Perez also jumped Hamilton, Gasly and Vettel by going long, and Hamilton was less than happy to hear the news over team radio. Schumacher got a black and white flag for track limits to match his teammates, and also fell behind him with a fuel pump issue, and Mazepin was allowed to pass. It must have been a pretty bad problem if Mazepin was being held up by Schumacher. An age later, still nothing happened apart from Norris lapping Ricciardo, which was frankly embarrassing to say the least. Stroll started on hards and made his stop on lap 59 to hold on to 8th on the road, and Norris was struggling on his tyres, with Perez closing at a rate of knots. Hamilton stopped with 10 laps to go for the fastest lap, and duly delivered as Lando defended like his life depended on it from Perez. Monaco being Monaco though, the cars came home in order. Verstappen, Sainz and Norris rounding off the podium, but followed by Vettel, Gasly, Hamilton, Stroll, Ocon and Giovinazzi earning a well-deserved point. And that was exactly 2 minutes. That is how you do it, Karl. So, yeah, that was a very surprising race from Giovinazzi. I was quite impressed by him, to be honest. Well, I say I was impressed by him. I'm impressed on how much better he is than Raikkonen now, but that doesn't mean a lot, because we don't know how good Kimi Raikkonen is. I've had this rant on other podcasts as well, especially on Grid Talk. George, if you're listening, you'll know what I'm talking about. But for me, Kimi Raikkonen is an absolutely spent force in Formula One. He was comprehensively beaten by Vettel that is broken. And Giovinazzi is about as good as this guy 2 years later. You put him and Mazepin in the same car, I'd like to see which one is going to be better, because genuinely, I don't know. I just don't know who is better out of those two. I need to see Giovinazzi against a strong teammate before I can make that judgment. And I don't care what anyone says, Raikkonen is not a strong teammate anymore. You have he's into his 40s, and you have a sharp drop-off in performance in your 40s generally. And to be honest, he had a sharp drop-off in form in 2014, and he's not been the same since. So I'm not really, 2015 when he went back to Ferrari with Vettel, he's never really been on that. He got one race win in 3 seasons back in that Ferrari. The one that was cheating and had the best engine. Yeah, that one. One race win. Now, I know Ferrari'd him a couple of times, but hey-ho. Anyway, I'm not supposed to be doing all these hot takes and stuff. So that's just me having a moan. But I started this by saying that I was actually impressed with Giovinazzi. So there we go. I was. Ocon, good race. Stroll, good race. Vettel, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal race with Vettel. He looked like the Vettel of old at times, which was great. And Gasly, yeah, he started where he started. He finished where he finished, pretty much. Just went forward one place due to Leclerc and Bottas not finishing. So,
Drive
driver of the day for discussion. I'm going to put this forward to Karl to discuss on the next podcast. For me, it's Vettel, Perez, and you've got Norris and Sainz have got to be in the conversation, but they basically just started where they finished. They didn't have to try and pass anyone. So I think for me, it's Sebastian Vettel. Perez had a really bad qualifying, which is why he was down there. He had a car to be on the front row, and he wasn't. So I'm not really sure how you can give him driver. Well, driver today, I suppose you can probably put him in the conversation. But again, he drove around, didn't put any pressure on anyone. He was way back from Hamilton, and it was only because he did the strategy that Mercedes should have done. That he was able to then jump the cars. He didn't do any, I mean, you can't overtake in Monaco anyway, but he didn't do anything particularly special. He just had the quickest car and had clear air, and that's how he was able to jump everyone. If he was outperforming the car, Vettel, I think, Vettel had a better race performance than Perez. So that's why I think Vettel, for me, is driver of the day.
Who's our dick of the day?
Dick of the day, there's one of two things really. There's the entire Mercedes operation for the way that they messed with Hamilton's setup and against his wishes, and it just didn't work. To then going on to the whole fiasco with Bottas, with his wheel not coming off, and then the strategy call. Anyone who knows anything about Formula One knows that Lewis Hamilton, when it comes to tyre wear, he is the one that is probably the only person on the field that can beat Perez when it comes to tyre wear. So why the hell they didn't make him go long, I have no idea. But the only other option really for Dick of the Day for me is the Monaco TV graphics company. They put a graphic up saying that Lewis Hamilton has got no wins this year and no podiums, and Pierre Gasly has got 3 wins and is a previous winner of Monaco. They put up a graphic for Norris, which was actually Vettel's statistics. They had the replays issue. They kept cutting away from the action. Now, I know that they have a separate television company that does the Monaco coverage because they don't want Monaco to be shown in a bad light. So they want the Principality to be shown how they want it to be seen. So that's part of the reason. Part of the reason as well is they can't get all of the FOM equipment in to Monaco because the paddock's so small. So they have to use pre-existing facilities. So yeah, fine, good reasons, but to be honest, this brand of Formula One, it can't have what's supposed to be their showpiece event having graphics like that because they were just all over the place. So they're the two things for me, which really got to me a little bit. So I don't know. I think, to be honest, though, that's always a problem at Monaco. Whereas Mercedes being dicks, I think they win it for me. Just the entire Mercedes team.
Predictions.
So what does that do for predictions then? Well, spoiler alert, we didn't do that well. I did all right, actually. I got Verstappen to win fastest lap. I had Verstappen for fastest lap. Random driver was Vettel. I thought I was being optimistic by giving Vettel a 10th place. 5th place in the end, Sebastian Vettel. First retirement, it's not Charles Leclerc because he didn't start. The first retirement is actually Valtteri Bottas. And I had Mazepin for the first time. So don't say that I'm just a hater because I put Mazepin as my first retirement. So just the 1 point for myself there. Karl, I laughed at him. He said Leclerc to win. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He probably would have done had he started the race. And then I would have had egg on my face. But as it is, Leclerc 0. He had Verstappen for fastest lap, and he had Vettel to finish 13th and Russell to be the first retirement. So no points for Karl. So overall then, 5 races in, Karl's got 2 points, I've got 4, and our guest predictor, who also scored no points, has got 3. Just taking a sip of drink there. It's hard when you're on your own, just talking to yourself constantly. You have to drink a lot more. So that is that. So standings wise, we are now in a situation where for the first time, Max Verstappen leads the World Championship, and we don't have to hear Crofty say it anymore. I'm getting so fed up with that. Oh, he still never led the championship. Yeah, well, he has now, so shut up. So Max Verstappen leads the World Championship on 105 points. Hamilton on 101 in second place. My boy Lando, he's up with 56 points, back up to third due to Valtteri Bottas's DNF. Bottas drops to fourth with Sergio Perez. in 5th place with 44 points. Charles Leclerc, a no score, drops him down to 6th, with Carlos Sainz moving up to 7th. Way ahead of Daniel Ricciardo now, who's only on the 24 points. Pierre Gasly 9th with 16. A little bit disappointing, really, considering how fast at that AlphaTauri is, to see that Daniel Ricciardo, given how bad his season has been, is ahead of him. So, yeah, it just goes to show how bad Tsunoda's doing, really. Sebastian Vettel up to 11th now with 10 points, and he is ahead of Lance Stroll. That didn't take long, did it? Stroll down to 12th. Fernando Alonso still a disappointing return in 5th place, with Yuki Tsunoda just at 2 points. Antonio Giovinazzi finally gets off the mark. And then we have Raikkonen, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin, all with no points. Teams Championship, otherwise known as the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull lead. First time we've had Red Bull winning both championships since the last race of the 2013 season in Brazil, when Sebastian Vettel won his 4th and final championship. I'm saying that because he's not going to win another one, let's be honest. So they are sitting on 149 points, 148 Mercedes. McLaren, 80 points in 3rd. Ferrari, 78 in 4th. Aston Martin, a long way back now, but they are up to 5th with 19 points. AlphaTauri, again, disappointing, just the 18. Alpine, 17. Alfa Romeo, they're off the mark. They got the 1 point. And then Williams sit above Haas based on final finishing positions, 9th and 10th with no points. So coming up, we've got Baku, Azerbaijan. It's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde circuit. It's currently the fastest street circuit on the Formula 1 calendar, because we don't know how fast Jeddah's going to be. Jeddah claim it's going to be the quickest. Let's wait and see. Either way, it's not like Jeddah's going to be on the circuit for very long. It's going to be off after a year or two while they build their permanent race circuit. So we don't know if Jeddah's actually going to be on the circuit long term, or if it's going to move to a different location. But I think it's going to be a whole separate track, purpose-built facility. Probably a Tilkedrome, probably no overtaking, probably no undulation. It's probably going to be flat as hell. But hey-ho, there we go. That's next up for Formula 1. So if we move on to the Formula 2. 3 races in Formula 2 this weekend. So we'll go through the races one by one. So after the qualifying, they reversed the top 10 positions, which meant that Guan Yu Zhou starts on pole position with Drugovich second and Lundgaard third. Jack Aitken returned to the series after Nannini decided F2 and F3 was too much for one man to take on. Lundgaard quickly moved into second at Sandoval as the entire field safely negotiated turn 1. Schwartzman was the first to fall foul of the barriers after hitting the wall at Massenet and needed a new front wing. Guess what? It's virtually impossible to pass at Monaco. And so that's how things remained until lap 13, when Lundgaard's engine started losing oil and the telltale signs of blue smoke began to curtail his race. Sorry, Laura, if you're listening. I was cheering for him. He retired a few laps later, 5 laps to go, and Gianluca Petkov launched into the wall at the swimming pool exit, causing a safety car, but no further action was caused until Marino Sato went head-on into the wall at Sandoval. The brilliant Monaco marshals had the car cleared before the train got back round, and on the last turn of the last lap, Marcus Armstrong made the only non-turn 1 lap 1 overtake of the race to take reverse grid pole. Fantastic job from him. F2 sprint with the expected lack of on-track action. The Monaco gods decided to throw everything they had at F2 in an effort to spice up the race, with pole sitter Marcus Armstrong breaking down on the way to the grid and the track being wet at the start of the race. The new pole sitter Lawson was taken by Piastri on lap 1 turn 1, with Ticktum following in third and Petkov hitting the wall in exactly the same place for the second time in 6 racing laps. Armstrong, who started from the pit lane, retired on lap 4 to end a miserable day, and on lap 5, Lawson attempted to take the lead from Piastri at the Nouvelle chicane. There was slight contact and Piastri cut the chicane to maintain position. Race control would have surely wanted to take a look at it, but Lawson was too impatient to wait and threw one up the inside at Rascasse and completed the move at Anthony Noakes to retake the lead. Virtual safety car was deployed on lap 10 for Sato retiring with a technical fault, and Zhou and Drugovich took the opportunity to throw on a set of dry tyres. 5 laps later, Zhou realised he had done a whoopsie and came back in again for wets. Embarrassing affair for the UNI Virtuosi team. Tickton managed to do what Lawson couldn't and completed a pass on Piastri, the Nouvelle chicane, to take second. We're on lap 15 with a fabulous move. Nissany confirmed his gentleman driver status after his Thursday podium by attempting the same overtake Ticktum tried on Boschon, but instead massively cut the chicane. A lap later, he bitch-slapped the wall with his left rear at the turn 1, damaging his car and ending his race. Vips made a pass on Pourchaire, heading towards the Lowe's hairpin, which is actually called Fairmont, I think, but no one seems to care. Lowe's just sounds cooler. Beckman and Viscal collided at Sandoval, ending both their races and causing a safety car with 5 laps to go. The race ran the full distance just as the timer ran to 0 on lap 30, but no more action occurred after the safety car, and Lawson dominated the final laps, winning by a clear 8 seconds from Ticktum and Piastri. Jack Aitken claimed an impressive point, gradually working his way forwards over the 2 races. Leading on to the F2 feature race then, where Thibaut Pourchaire in the split qualifying kept his brilliant pole after several cars cut the first turn to avoid crashing, and Aitken stopped on track and was recovered almost immediately by the incredible Monaco marshals. I mention them quite a lot because they are brilliant. Can't stress enough how good these guys and girls are. Virtually no action through the main part of the race saw including the pit stop, saw us jump to lap 19 as Jaruvalo made contact with Petikov coming out of the tunnel and broke his suspension. He pulled off track at the Nouvelle chicane and ended his race. The top 5 were all on the alternate strategy to pit with 14 laps to go, and Schwartzman had a slow stop, dropping him from 2nd to 6th. Armstrong hit the wall on lap 31, trying to pass around the outside of Raskas, and Monaco Marshall did their usual thing. I won't say it again, you know how I feel about them. I like them a little too much. Zendelli was next to test the marshals, going head-on into the wall, and Piastri locked up, and Ticktum needed no invitation to go side-by-side into the Raskas, but was too ambitious and ran out of road. He stopped just short of the barrier, but wasn't able to keep it running. He came on the radio and apologised, proving his dick tantrum days may indeed be behind him in a mature admission of fault, when, in all honesty, he had to go for it. I would have been more disappointed if he didn't go for it. So, keep your head up. Keep your head up, Dan. Did good. Pourchaire came home to win at age 17, becoming the youngest ever F2 winner. And also not old enough to drive in Monaco, because you've got to be 18, so he's never even driven on the streets, and then there he is winning in a race car. Fantastic performance from him. He was great in F3 last year, and he's looking all the part in F2 as well. I think the graduates from F3, Lawson and Pourchaire, have been brilliant, or the 2 main ones anyway. Brilliant pole, calm under pressure, and he's just so young. Absolutely brilliant job. Dick of the day, Pourchaire driver of the day, of the whole weekend, of the week, of the season, to be honest. And Dick of the day, Deleda. Jesus Christ, Deleda. He was so slow. He was well outside the 107% rule, and they allowed him to race anyway. Now, normally that would be because you have a comparable time in practice, which was quick enough. I went back and checked his breakfast times. I went back and checked his practice times, and sure enough, he was even slower in practice. So he was nowhere near the 107%. Now, I know that he was in Group 2, which meant that his time compared to the person who was quickest in his group would have been closer to the 107%, but it was still outside the 107%. I have absolutely no understanding as to why they allowed him to race. He was lapped in F2. You don't see people getting lapped in F2 when just on pace, and he was lapped on pace comfortably with about 6 or 7 laps to go. Shocking, absolutely shocking. But that leads us to the standings, and we see Guan Yu Zhou still leading the standings with 68 points from the 6 rounds so far at Sakira and Monte Carlo. Now, Guan Yu Zhou, if he doesn't win the championship this year, then he needs to hang his helmet up, because it's his 3rd year in F2. 2nd year returnees should be dominating this championship. And then you've got people like Oscar Piastri, Thibaut Pourchaire, Liam Lawson. I can't believe I forgot Oscar Piastri when I was talking about the graduates there. They're the guys that are looking strongest. And so if they're anywhere near Zhou at the end of the season, then they've outperformed Zhou. Oscar Piastri in 2nd with 52, Thibaut Pourchaire with 47 in 3rd. Dan Ticktum having a better season than last year with 38 points in 4th, with Lawson in 5th. Robert Schwartzman, disappointing. He was my pick for the championship this year, 30 points in 6th, with Drugovic in 7th, tied with Deruvala. For sure, 23 points with Vips, 22 points. Disappointing start for him, I think. With Boschong also on 22 points. Lundgaard way back in 12th. 2nd season, I expected him to be well up there. 16 points for him. And then we go to Beckman, also from F3. He's got the 12 points. Roy Nissany, 12 points. Again, should be doing better. Marcus Armstrong should be doing better as well. Also, just the 10 points. Zendelli 4, Sato 1, Nannini 1, and then we've got Aitken and Fiskal, Samaya, Deleda and Petakov, all with 0. So the next time we see F2 is Baku, which, keep your eye on this. Now, I said before, anyone who's listening to this podcast who's just getting into F1 or just getting into F2, watch F2 in Baku. It's crazy. If you want to see a crazy race, go back to 2017 or 16, whenever the first Baku race was. F2 in Baku, may have been GP2 then, but Baku, first year, the F2 race, absolutely crazy. It was so crazy that I'm pretty sure that the stewards went to the Formula 1 guys and said, just be careful. This race is absolutely crazy. And then like the Formula 1 race in the first year at Baku was terrible because like nobody risked anything. But it was just, you got a massive long straight, which is, I say it's a straight, but it's got a flat out kink in it. So you're pretty much the whole of the last sector. You're flat out. You barely touch the brakes in the whole of the third sector. I think with the bendy wings, you're going to be seeing a very strong Red Bull. But back to F2. It's going to be one for the faint-hearted. It's going to be a bit of a lottery. The qualifying for the feature race is going to be key, but those reverse grid races for the sprint races are going to be mental, especially the second one that's going to have no relevance to the feature race on the Sunday. First race, they may be a little bit more cautious, but I think it's going to be crazy. Look forward to that, definitely. Right, so if we move on to the Indy 500, there was a mammoth 6-hour qualifying session, which I had on my tablet in the back garden whilst on silent, whilst I was having a barbecue with some friends, because we can do that now. We can meet up outside in having a barbecue, so that was fun. But yeah, it's no surprises really on the finishers, but I'm going to do the entire field. I'm going to work the way from the back and just talk about interesting stories as and when they come up. So it was a very, very long qualifying session. As I said, 6 hours. But after the first qualifying session, day one, they then had the bottom 5 would then have to come back the next day in last chance qualifying, and then you got the fast 9 will do a separate qualifying session as well. So right at the back, we had R.C. Emerson, no surprise there, the rookie for Top Gun Racing. He was not able to qualify. Average speed over the 4 laps of 2:26.813 was by far the slowest. Charlie Kimball for AJ Foyt did not make it either. He will be disappointed in that. Chevrolet definitely don't look like they're on it at all for this. It's you look at the top and it's mostly Honda. You look at the bottom and it's basically all Chevrolet. I think the lowest Honda runner. Yeah, I don't want to say that because I like the guy, but the lowest Honda runner is Steph Wilson. But I think we'll talk more about Steph later on because we're going to be talking about Steph later on. So we've got Simona Di Silvestro was able to get in her Penske Beretta hybrid, Beretta Autosport. Great to see her get into the 500. Lots of women working in that team, showing solidarity and showing that women can do it in motorsport as well, not just on the driving side. So going to be taking a particular look at them on the Sunday next weekend, see how well she does. Will Power also in a Penske, very, very disappointed. He's a past winner and he's back in 32nd, but he made it into the race because he had to fight out for it. And Sage Karam is the person on the back row with those three. Very, very disappointed. Dalton Kellett, 30th, 29th, Max Chilton, 28th, Stefan Wilson, Sebastian Bourdais, way back in 27th. Simon Pagenaud, another past winner in 26th. And then we've got Marco Andretti, last year's pole sitter, back in 25th. Juan Pablo Montoya, ex-winner in Arrow McLaren SP in 24th. I'm not sure what he's got to offer anymore, to be honest. Didn't seem to be doing an awful lot in the Indy GP last week. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. Give him a shot. You know, it's great. It's a famous name in a McLaren. You know, it didn't go that well last time he was racing a McLaren in Formula 1, but hey-ho. That's fine. Santino Ferrucci, great story for him. Actually, nearly didn't make it in because he had a crash and he hurt his leg, but he was able to get back in the car, fight through the pain, and qualified 23rd. He'll be disappointed in that as a starting position, but just glad that he's made it into the race. J.R. Hildebrand has made it into 22nd, which is going to make the Race IndyCar podcast interesting to listen next week. With JR being the regular guest on that show. More on that another time. We've got a little bit of a tie-up with the Race IndyCar podcast coming up, so look forward to that next week. Joseph Newgarden, 21st. That's a shock, but again, the Chevrolets don't seem to be working out. Jack Harvey in the Meyershank Racing Honda back there in 20th. Connor Daly, 19th. Again, he'll be quite disappointed in that. He looked like he was in a shout for the Fast 9, so way back in 19th. Graham Rahal, 18th. Scott McLaughlin, 17th in the lowest place qualifying rookie. James Hinchcliffe, 16th. Takuma Sato, 15th. Two-time winner. Felix Rosenqvist. Good recovery for him in 14th with his teammate in 12th, Patricio O'Ward. O'Ward looked like he was Fast 9 material, and Rosenqvist just was nowhere. And in the end, to be 230.744 for Rosenqvist and 230.864 for Pato O'Ward. Then split by the other rookie, Pietro Fittipaldi, in 13th. And then we have Ed Jones and Alex Rossi. Very disappointed to be out of the Fast 9, sitting back there in 10th place. Fast 9, great performance from Marcus Ericsson for Chip Ganassi. 8th place, Helio Castroneves. Ryan Hunter-Reay in 7th. Alex Palou in 6th. Tony Kanaan, what a story. This will probably be his last Indy 500. He's a past winner. He's up there in 5th place with Ed Carpenter on the front row. With Rinus VeeKay. Ed Carpenter not on the front row. He's in 4th. Rinus VeeKay on the front row with Colton Herta and Scott Dixon out front as the pole sitter. 231.685, so 231 miles an hour, and then you've got the last qualifier was 228 miles an hour. We're talking, less than or just slightly over 3 miles per hour on a 4-lap average of a 2.5 mile circuit. That's insane, absolutely insane. That's how close it is, and that's just how tight these margins are. So I said we're going to talk a little bit about Steph Wilson. We're cheering on Steph Wilson. A little while ago, it was around a year ago, he came on this podcast, and he was our first guest. We were still very green at doing this. We didn't have the nice audio setup that we have now. Karl was talking into, I think, an iPhone headphone, so his audio was all over the place. My audio wasn't great. So it was a bit bad, and Steph really helped us kind of learn about IndyCar. He came on just before the delayed start of the season last year, and we still to this day really appreciate him coming on and talking to us about IndyCar. We do talk occasionally, and it gives us updates on how he's doing, and we're cheering him on absolutely. Get behind him on Twitter at Steph Wilson. He's a top guy, top bloke. And we really want to see him do well. He was doing so well. Final practice, the day after qualifying, he had a bit of a setup issue on the day, which put him way back. At one point, it looked like he was going to be in danger of having to do last chance qualifying, but he was able to get into the show. Final practice, he was P8 overall, but the exciting time is P3 in the no-toes. So basically, when you're qualifying, you're on your own, so you can't get a toe off anyone. In final practice, he was P3 for the times where people didn't have toes. So when I say not having toes, I mean they have toes. I mean they're just not picking up a toe off the car in front. So we're cheering on Steph Wilson. We'll do I'm definitely going to be cheering him on, doing this like a Steph Wilson watch. Every time he passes a car, I might just ring a bell or something. But it's great to see him in the 500, so we're really looking forward to that. So we've got 2 rookies, 9 past winners. Next on-track action is Friday, the 28th of May. That's 11 a.m. Eastern Time to 1 p.m. 2-hour practice. That's Carb Day. And then we have the main event. It's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday, the 30th of May, Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be a big one, and we've got a guest on next week, an expert analyst to really help us go through all the details of the show and really, give us some credibility to actually talk about this race next week. So, looking forward to that. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you thought about today's show. See if you like this format. If you think it's terrible without Karl, please let us know. We really appreciate all of your comments and your suggestions as well, and your criticisms. They are all welcomed. If we don't agree with your criticism, then that's fine. We still welcome the criticism, and we will take it on board. And if enough people say we're crap, then we'll change things. So, but equally, if you like what we do, then you can support us. You can head to our website, Monkeyseatpod.com. As I said, this is completely independent podcast. We do occasionally get sponsors on board who help us out, but we are completely self-funded. So if you want to help us do what we do, you can go to our website, Monkeyseatpod.com, and you can make a donation. Now, the way that works is if you go to the website, there's a section that says, give us a quid. We exist solely on the donations and on the purse strings of our host. So any donations go straight back into the podcast. There are various ways that you can give us a quid. It doesn't have to be a quid. It can be more than that. But lowest tier of donations is £1 to £4.99, which is a personal thank you email from the hosts. Thanking you very much for all your support. Between £5 and £9.99, it's a personal thank you email from the host, and we give you a shout out on a future episode as well. You can also get a shout out by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on any other podcast player that allows you to leave reviews. 5-star reviews is a great way to get us to move up the podcasting rankings, gets us heard, gets us more listeners, gets us more donations, gives us better equipment, we sound better, you get a better experience. Between £10 and £50, you will get pay driver status on our website for 12 months. You'll be listed on the website as a supporter, a sponsor, and that can be in whatever form you want. If you want that as a company name, we will happily plug your business for a year. That is damn good advertising rates, that is, and we'll also mention you on the podcast, and anything above £50, and you will get everything, all of the above, but you get billionaire sugar daddy status on the website and a shout out on every podcast episode for 12 months, starting the first podcast after you make the donation. We're happy to add other tiers if you have something that you want to offer us. And have a price in mind, get in contact with us, monkeyseatpodcast@gmail.com. We're on the socials at Monkeyseatpod. We want this to be led by the fans. So this is for the fans, by the fans. Such a cliche, I know. And so I'm gonna end it on a cliche, as I say, leaving the people, skipping to the end because I can't be asked to listen to the rest of it. So thank you very much for listening. Get in touch with us, speak to us, and we look forward to having a chat with you all. Back live again on YouTube next week after the Indianapolis 500. See you all later. Standings-wise, we are now in a situation where we have the 2020 standings up for some reason. So let's remove them and let's put up the 2021 standings. For the first time, finally, we can.